What is up, motherfuckers? Louie back here again. Crazy last weekend. I did all right. I went 8-3. Had some heartbreakers there. The ones that really hurt were Cannonier and Brunson. Brunson was the underdog, and he looked phenomenal for the first round. Got the takedown, dropped him, but Cannonier came back and got the knockout in the second round. That's always liable to happen because he hits like a truck. It is what it is. And then Derek Lewis and tied to Avasa. That was the real heartbreaker of the night. I was going back and forth all day with that because if it's a gunfight, Tai Tuivasa could win. But I just thought Derek Lewis is going to win a gunfight if he's in a gunfight. And, you know, Tuivasa took some heavy-ass shots. Derek Lewis got the takedown. But Tuivasa hung in there and knocked him the fuck out with one-hitter quarter elbow. So good for him. Awesome fight to see. And then Izzy and Rob hated the line, minus 300 Izzy. Nail-biter. Looked like Rob won the first time I watched it, so was kind of surprised, but if I could go either way. So overall, good night. Just, you know, there's two heartbreakers there, but I thought it was a great card. Moving on to this week, UFC Vegas 48. You have Jamal Hill taking on Johnny Walker at 205. Rafael Fiziev and Rafael Dos Anjos fell out, but it'll be on the next pay-per-view, so, you know, that pay-per-view card is going to be even more stacked. But still a decent main event, you know. Obviously not the greatest main event in the world, but, you know, if Jamal Hill wins this, that's a huge spot for him. He'll be right there in the top 10. So, and also Johnny Walker's looking for a little bit of redemption. He was kind of trying to find his footing back in this division because he was such a bright prospect 2-3 years ago. So, big opportunities for both guys. All right, let's move on to the, well, early prelims. Sorry, prelims. I forget exactly what fight it is. But, 135 men's bantamweight, you got Chad and Helliger taking on Jesse Strader. And Helliger took on Muin Gafarov his last fight. In the first round, he gets taken down with the blast double, but he tries to use the fence, but he gets his back taken, and then he eats some ground and pound from the position. But he's able to gain side control whenever Gafarov pulls a guillotine, which I hate. I think it's stupid, so good for him capitalizing on there. And then he's actually able to get back to his feet, and then he lands a knee to the head, and he drops him with the knee to the head and lands some hard ground and pound in the first round. So pretty good look there at the end of the first round. And then the second round, he gets taken down with the blast double and he tries to go for a guillotine, but he lets go because he wasn't going to get it. So good on him. But he gets his back taken, then he gets pulled back down to the mat. But then he's actually able to explode in and reverse the position, get on top, and then he's able to land some elbows in the clinch back on the feet. But then he eats some counter hooks and he gets taken down with the double against the fence at the end. But then in the third round, he presses forward, but he eats an overhand, but he's able to defend the double on the fence at least. And then he lands some jabs and some leg kicks. And then he was able to reverse the trip attempt, and he's able to get top position, but he gets pressed, eats a left hook, and he gets clinched. And then they both trade hooks at the end. Decent fight for him. A little bit of scrambly. Not the best wrestler, but, you know, was able to fight out of some positions. And then Jesse Strader took on Montel Jackson in his last fight. In the first round, he backs up, pumps front kicks, eats a head kick, and leg kicks at range. He's able to slip the jab and land some knees in the clinch, but then he gets dropped with the right hook off the break. And then he gets dropped with a blitz and just TKO'd. Just got overwhelmed there. And then he took on Isaiah Gonzalez in, I forget what organization, sorry. But I took on Isaiah Gonzalez before that because the first fight was so short. In the first round, he backs out of jabs. And then he enters with body hooks, but he gets pressed and eats overhand, and then he eats some straight rights on the fence. But then he's able to land a left hook, and actually rocks him with it, kind of throws it out there. And then he presses forward with hooks to the body and then left hook to the head, and he's able to get the knockout kind of just out of nowhere. Jesse Strader plus 200, Chad and Helliger minus 250. I don't know, man. I hate this line. It's an early fight. I just like what I saw out of Helliger. The line sucks, but, you know, Jesse just got knocked the hell out. And, you know, Chad has some wrestling chops, and I think he'll be able to, you know, to control the later rounds. If he gets out of the first round, I think Chad's good here. My pick here is Chad and Hellinger. All right, on to the second fight of the prelims, I guess. A lot happened to the card. Anyway, Women's strawweight, 115, Diana Belbita taking on Gloria DePaula. Belbita took on Hannah Goldie her last fight. In the first round, she eats some head kicks, but she presses forward with the 1-2 and lands a leg kick. And then she's able to catch Hannah's kick, and she's able to drop her with the right hook and land some ground and pound, and then lands another blitz back on the feet, but she gets taken down when her kick is caught, and then she gets clinched to the fence, but lands a 1-2 on the break. Then in the second round, she presses forward again with the 1-2, and lands a leg kick, and landed an overhand right, and she gets clinched, and she eats some knees to the body, and she eats a head kick moving forward. But then in the third round, she eats a 1-2-1 from Hannah Goldie. Hannah made a really nice adjustment, started throwing another jab after her right hand, and then a head kick, and she eats a short right as she's moving inward, and then she presses and lands a hard jab, and then she lands an overhand right, and then a flurry on Hannah, but then she gets clinched to the fence for a long time, and then she gets taken down with a body lock trip, and then eats some ground and pound on at the end. A lot of ground and pound, but you know, she secured the first 2 rounds, so might have just got caught slipping there. There's like 20 seconds left to go, and then Gloria DePaula took on Cheyenne Velismus, formerly Buys. In the first round, she's at range, she gets pressed, eats a flurry, then she gets taken down with the body lock, and then she gets dropped with the head kick as soon as she's getting up, perfectly timed from Cheyenne, and then just gets TKO'd. Not much there. Before that, she took on Jinyu Fry. In the first round, she eats a 1-2, and she gets taken down with the body lock, and then she has a failed armbar attempt, and then she gets her back taken, but she's able to roll through to full guard from the bottom position, and then she keeps a closed guard, no activity, and doesn't really do much, doesn't really try to get out, might throw a leg up or two, possibly set up a triangle, but nothing major. Then in the second round, she eats a left hook at range, and then she eats a counter left off of Fry's 1-2, and then she eats a 1-2 and then gets clinched to the fence, but she presses forward with the 1-2, but she's a little short, a little out of range, and then she's able to defend the single at least at the end of the round. Then in the third round, her kick is caught and she gets taken down with the body lock, and then she grabs the Kimura from the back, but not good position. It's in full guard and full mount. It's not the right position there, and then she gets her back taken and has to defend the rear naked choke for the rest of the fight. So Gloria is plus 100, and Diana is minus 120. I'm going to go with Diana. She showed a lot better striking, landed more shots, showed some tenacity. I didn't like the last 20 seconds of that fight, but hopefully she learned from that. And Gloria just, you know, she got knocked the fuck out with the head kick and might be a little chinny at this point, and seems like she can get out grappled. I like the price, minus 120. Diana Belbita. All right, third fight on the prelims at 145, men's featherweight. Chad Scally taking on Mark Striego. I guess this would be, nope, the third fight, okay. Chad Scally took on Jordan Griffin, 2019. He's been off for about 3 years actually, yeah. So big layoff for him, which is a big red flag, but might not have a choice in the matter. In the first round, he stands at range and he's in and out. But he eats a blitz and then a 1-2, but he's able to duck under and he's able to get the back with a rear naked choke attempt, and then another rear naked choke attempt in the backpack position on his back standing, and then he holds on to the modified arm triangle a little too long. He's not going to get the rear naked choke, and that's not really a choke, so he kind of blows his arms out, but you know, it doesn't go too crazy with it, and then Griffin's able to reverse him off that. But then in the second round, his single gets stuffed and he eats a 1-2 and then a head kick, but he gets pressed with the 1-2 and taken down with double from Jordan, but he eats a hard elbow in full mount. But he gets put in a backpack position himself, but he somersaults, front flips out of it, and then he's able to reverse the position, to actually take Jordan's back and then stay on his back for the rest of the round. So very competitive round, and I kept fighting through it and ended the round dominantly. And then in the third round, he eats a 1-2 and then a head kick, but he jabs and then shoots a single, but he gets put in a guillotine, but then he's able to get on Jordan's back off of there, and then he gets reversed for the last 20 seconds, but again, has a lot of back control, rear naked choke attempt, and dominated the round in my opinion. And then Mark Striego took on Said Nurmagomedov, his last fight in either the Contender Series or UFC, sorry, I forget. But in the first round, he presses forward, but he eats a hook and a leg kick from Said, and then he presses with the straight right, and then shoots a single, but he eats a left hook and a flurry and just gets knocked the fuck out from Said. Nothing much to that, which big red flag for me, just getting knocked out like that. And then he took on, and another organization took on Shinichi Shimizu. And in the first round, he chases him down with some right hooks, but then he gets dropped with a counter from him. Not a good sign. And then he gets pulled in a guillotine, but he's able to get on top in the side control headlock position. Basically just has a headlock and just goes to work, which I actually liked. Just sat there and landed some some punches and scored points and did a little bit of damage. And then he's able to work the full mount, but then he gets reversed and he gets put in a triangle, but he's able to escape and then get on top to end the round. Then the second round, he presses with leg kicks, and then he eats a right hook as he's coming in, and then there's like a low blow or something, and the fight just ends in a no contest. So whatever, and there's not too much tape on this guy, and you know, he's fought in Asian organizations, so the quality of opponents is questionable at best. Mark Striego plus 170, Chaz Skelly minus 200. I hate the 3-year layoff, but Chaz Skelly is a really good grappler, and he keeps scrambling, and Jordan Griffin had a beat a couple times. He was on his back, and he was able to scramble out of that and get his back, and I really like that tenacity. And Jordan Griffin is a very tricky grappler, has a good guillotine, so I like what I saw. Don't love the price, but 3 years long layoff, you know, I don't think you can just count that. It really sucks, but, you know, I just did not like what I saw out of Mark Striego. My pick here is Chaz Skelly, minus 200. Okay, on to the... Nope, okay. Fourth fight on the prelims, women's bantamweight, 135. Jessica Rose Clark taking on Stephanie Edgar. Rose Clark took on Jocelyn Edwards her last fight. In the first round, she presses with a straight right, and she gets clinched on the fence, but she's able to get the outside trip to full guard. Nice takedown, gets it right away. Pretty good grappler. And then she gets a single off the fence, but Edwards was able to roll through and get Jessica's back while they're in the standing position. But then she presses forward but eats a hook flurry, but then she's able to get the back trip off the fence and the round on top. Then in the second round, she steps in, lands the elbow, but she gets clinched to the fence, but she's able to reverse the position, reverse the clinch, and she's able to get the single and then take full mount. And, you know, the whole time she's on top, she has dominant position, doesn't do much damage at all, so whatever, but still winning. She just got to make sure that Jocelyn doesn't land a flurry on her. And then in the third round, she throws the overhand right, but she eats some counter hooks from Jocelyn. But she's able to get the clinch and the trip, and then she's able to get half guard and just sit there, ride it out. And whatever, it worked for her. She won on points, but, you know, if there's a flurry against you, then, you know, you might get that round stolen from you. But then Stephanie Edgar took on Shayna Young her last fight. In the first round, she stalks forward and catches a kick and then clinches to the fence. She presses forward, lands a 1-2, but then she gets pressed with the 1-2 and clinched, but she's able to get a headlock takedown, basically the regular old school headlock, and then she's able to escape the heel hook attempt, and then she's on her feet, you know, while Young has her leg and just rains down hammer fists, which is really good to see, does some damage. And then in the second round, she presses forward, lands overhand right, but she gets pressed with some straight shots to the fence. But then she's able to get the trip with double overhooks and then get in side control, and she lands some hard ground and pound and just gets the TKO. Might have been a premature stoppage, but she was landing some hard shots, and Young was definitely in trouble. So I like what I saw out of her. The betting line's interesting. Stephanie Edgar plus 155, Jessica Rose Clark minus 180. Rose Clark's a very good grappler, but Stephanie Edgar... I don't really know who the better grappler is, but Stephanie Edgar's a decent enough grappler, I think, to be able to stay on the feet with Rose Clark. I don't think Rose Clark's striking is that great. I think her striking might be a little more fluid. And I think Stephanie Edgar actually might even be able to take Rose Clark down. She's the underdog. It's also lower level women's MMA. Plus 155. Decent profit there. My pick here is Stephanie Edgar. Alright, so I finally got the bout order figured out. It was a little weird on Google, but this is the main event of the prelims. 145 men's featherweight. Gabriel Benitez taking on David Onoma. Benitez took on Billy Quarantillo his last fight, very tough opponent. In the first round, he presses forward, eats overhand right, but he's able to stuff the double from Billy, and then he gets dropped with the right hook in the pocket, kind of a flash knockdown. But he eats some ground and pound, and then he has a failed armbar attempt, and he gets his back taken and figured forward by Billy. But he's able to turn in and get on top of first position, but he's not able to hold it. Billy gets out. Then he looks for counter hooks whenever Billy stalks forward, but then he's able to stuff the double with the front headlock, and then he gets put in a leg lock and gets his position reversed to end the round. And then in the second round, he presses with the 1-2, and then he gets doubled off the fence, but he gets his back taken, but he lands a body shot in the pocket, but he gets pressured back toward the fence. Billy's pressure is very intense, and he gets taken down, but back on the feet, they're in an exchange, and he gets pressured back to fence and just eats some shots from Billy. Then he's able to stuff Billy's single and then lands knee to the body, but he loses the firefight. He loses every firefight he's in with Billy, but, you know, it's Billy, so. But in the third round, He's able to drop Billy real quick with the 1-2 as Billy's coming in, just real quick though, not too much damage. And then he's able to land some jabs, but eats some hooks and a body shot from Billy. Then he gets taken down with a double in open space, and then he gets his back taken trying to get up, and then he just gets TKO'd from ground and pound. Billy just went to work, and the ref had enough. But yeah, very, very tough fighter, but you know, just got controlled on the ground there whenever he got his back taken. And then David Onoma, he took on Mason Jones his last fight. In the first round, he looks for a lead left hook, but he gets pressed and eats some 1-2s, but he presses forward and lands a 1-2, but he gets rocked with the counter jab, and then he eats a flurry, but he lands some knees to the body in the clinch, but then he gets taken down because he threw the knees. Not the best ring IQ, but hopefully he'll learn. And then he gives up his back, and then he gets mat returned, trying to get up, but just keeps getting taken back down. But he's able to escape the rear naked choke position at least, and then gets back on his feet, and he lands a 1-2 in a pocket exchange, but he eats a counter straight to the body, and then an uppercut from Mason Jones, but he eats some shots in the clinch, but he's able to return a hook blitz and just throws a lot of hooks and lands some of them. Then in the second round, he presses forward, but he eats presses forward, but he eats some counter straight shots, but in return he pumps his jabs, but he misses. But he gets taken down with the double on the fence, and he has his back taken again. But he presses forward and lands some hard straight rights and lands a straight right in the pocket. But he gets the plum tie, and he gets clinched to the fence and then drugged down, and he gives up his back. When he goes for a tie, he gets taken down off there. Trying to land those knees, but you know what happens when you're wrestling when you're fighting a decent grappler. Then in the third round, they're in the pocket, and they both land straight rights, but he eats a counter uppercut from the straight right he threw, but he's able to rock him with the 1-2 in a firefight, but then he gets doubled after that, and then he gets mat returned, and he gives his back, but he's able to roll through the double and lands a flurry of punches at the end, like 10 seconds left. Didn't really matter much, but you know, he had some decent power, and you know, just the grappling's what got him. Take a look at the line. David Onoma -150, Gabriel Benitez +130, and I just didn't see much out of Gabriel Benitez. I know he kind of dropped Billy, but Billy just swarmed him. Onoma has good pressure too. I think Onoma has better hands. The line's pretty close here. I wouldn't be surprised either way, but my pick here is David Onoma. I just got a good feeling about it. Okay, the first fight of the main card at 185 men's middleweight, you got Joaquin Buckley taking on Abdul Razak Alhassan. Buckley took on Antonio Arroyo his last fight. In the first round, he's at range and then lands a step-in head kick, and then he got inside with a double jab and then a head kick, but he hits Arroyo's chest, doesn't hit the head, but then he eats a switch kick from Arroyo, but then he eats a head kick coming in, and then he shoots a double, but it gets stuffed, and not much happens. Just not too much activity in this fight. Not a lot of people landing. Then in the second round, he stays at range. He lands leg and body kicks, and then he steps in. He's looking to enter with the jab. Just has a little bit of trouble getting in, but he's able to duck one of the shots and land a leg kick, and then he shoots a high single to the fence, and he's able to get the clinch and just kind of wear on Arroyo. But then he lands a leg kick and backs out when they're in the middle. Then he eats a jump knee, but clinches him to the fence. Then in the third round, he lands a 1-2 head kick. His shot is stuffed, and then he gives up his bag momentarily, but he gets right back up, which is really good to see. And then he presses forward with the straight right, and he's able to work inside and lands some right hooks in the clinch. And then he crashes in whenever Arroyo throws a body knee, just walks into him, and then lands a right hook and then a right uppercut and gets the knockout because Joaquin Buckley can hit like a truck. It just takes him a long time to hit sometimes, but you know, not too much activity, and he stuck it out, and you know, he can knock anybody out. So decent fight from him. And then Abdul Razak Alhassan, he took on Alicio Chirico's last fight. Literally comes forward, lands a head kick, knocks him out. So you know, he can knock anybody out too. But then before that, he took on Jacob Malkoun. Jacob Malkoun is a great grappler. Not necessarily the best comparison for Buckley, but his other fight against Chaos Williams, like that ended in like 30-second knockout, so whatever. So he took on Jacob Malkoun. In the first round, he stuffs a single on the fence. Then he throws some wild hooks, and then he lands left hook, but he gets taken down with a single against the fence, and he gives his back, and he works up, but he keeps getting mat returned. Kind of demoralizing, but, you know, at least he's trying to get up, so that's good to see. But then he eats some jabs at range, but he lands some body kicks at the end. Then in the second round, he gets taken down with a single at space, and he tries a guillotine, but doesn't work. And then he defends multiple darts / anaconda attempts from Jacob Malkoun on the top, so that's really good to see. And then, back on the feet, he eats a short right, and then he gets clinched, and Malkoun's just all over him. Malkoun's a great grappler. In the third round, he eats a blitz, and he lands a hook, but he gets shot against the fence, but he's able to defend the shot, but he gets clinched for a long time. And then he gets taken down with the single, and he misses the head kick and eats a 1-2. Then he eats some jabs on the fence, and then he gets taken down with the single to end the round. So I didn't really get to get a striking off too much. But, Buckley's not going to be as good of a grappler as Malkoun. But, not the best tape, but I found what I could. Abdul plus 140, Joaquin Buckley minus 160. Tough one. I just think Buckley's the more complete fighter here. I think Al-Hassan hits like a truck. But I just think Buckley would be able to stay at range because against Royal, he was in and out. I don't think, he'll just trade in a firefight with Al-Hassan. I think Buckley might even be able to take him down or at least clinch him and slow him down. I think that would help. I think Buckley would be able to get on the inside, land some hooks, maybe get in the clinch. Tough one, but my pick here is Joaquin Buckley. And then supplemental line over 1.5 rounds minus 115. I think that's decent. I think it'll go. I don't think Buckley's in any rush, and I don't think Abdul necessarily is. So I think they'll kind of feel each other out. Over 1.5 minus 15, not a bad play. Okay, second fight on the main card at 155, men's lightweight. You got Jim Miller taking on Nicholas Moto. Jim Miller, legend of the game. He took on Eric Gonzalez his last fight. In the first round, he presses with a straight left and a head kick, and he's able to get the clinch on the fence, but then he gets taken down with a body lock. But then he's able to get back on the feet, and he rocks him with a straight left off of his hook, but then he gets rocked with some hooks, but then he's able to shoot the double like a veteran, and then he eats some elbows in the clinch and gets pressed, but he's able to get the plum tie and lands some knees, and then he lands a counter overhand off of Gonzalez's hooks, and then he lands an overhand and then a left, and then does it again, and then he lands a flurry in the clinch. So really good end of the round by Miller, and Miller's not necessarily known for his hands, but he really letting his hands go. Then in the second round, like 15 seconds, he just knocks him out with the left cross as Gonzalez is coming in, and Jim Miller has power, so that's nice. And Nicholas Moto took on Joseph Lowry his last fight. In the first round, he bounces at range and then lands a step in left hook, and then he lands a check right, but eats a body hook and a leg kick and gets pressed. But then he lands a hard left hook off of Lowry's jab, but then he presses forward and lands a right hook. Then he lands a hook combination as Lowry throws a straight, nice counter, and then he drops him with the right hook at range. And then in the second round, he throws a 1-2-1 combination. He lands, and then he misses the 1-2, but then he lands a jab. But then he lands a 1-2 counter, and then he presses forward with the blitz, and then he lands a flurry of straight shots on the fence, and then he lands a 1-2 off of Lowry's kick, and then he lands a 1-2 and then a head kick, and then lands some knees to the body, but eats some hooks to the body in return. Then in the third round, he's able to land a jab at range, presses forward, lands hooks, and then backs out of range, in and out, nice movement. But then he eats an uppercut in a striking exchange, and then a jab to the body. But he gets countered with a hook and pressed with the 1-2. But he lands a flurry and then backs out of range of Lowry's flurry. So, pretty intelligent, landing his and then getting out. And knew Lowry's going to come into him. And then he's able to get the clinch, but then he gets clinched to the fence, but he's able to defend the double at the end. Nicholas Moto minus 170, Jim Miller plus 150. Moto making his UFC debut. His last fight was in the Contender Series. And I think Moto hits hard-ish. He didn't knock Lowry out. Lowry took a lot of punishment. He hits clean, though. He's accurate. But just the grappling, I think Jim Miller's going to get the better of him. I don't know, man. I just think, Jim Miller, he's kind of first round or bust, which when you think of a veteran, you think, oh, they can go all 3 rounds all the time. Not necessarily. But I think Jim Miller might just be able to wear on him. He might not be able to catch him with a submission. I don't know. I think Moto might get tired if he can't finish Jim Miller, but then again, Jim Miller is getting older and he might go over easier. I really don't know. It's a tough one, but plus 150 Jim Miller. fuck it. He's a veteran. He's Jim Miller. He's done it before. My pick here is Jim Miller. On to the feature fight at the main card, 265 men's heavyweight. Low-key, my favorite fight of the card. You got Parker Porter taking on Alan Badeau. Parker Porter, sloppy heavyweight, but he's on a 2-fight win streak, and he has heart, and he's tough, and he gets it done, and I love Parker Porter. I want to see him win. Anyway, Parker Porter took on Chase Sherman his last fight. In the first round, he eats some leg kicks and a 1-2 as he's coming forward. But he presses forward with the jab, but he eats a counter hook as he's pressing with the jab. But then he misses the overhand and he eats a counter hook from Sherman, but he lands right over the top of Sherman's jab, and then he lands a leg kick, and he presses with the jab and then an overhand right, and he pumps leg kicks, and then he's able to catch Sherman's kick and get in half guard and do some work. Not crazy ground and pound, but kept him down for a solid minute and a half, I believe. So good work from Parker Porter. Definitely took the first round. And then the second round, he presses and lands a jab, but then he eats a counter as he's throwing his overhand, but he lands a 1-2 off of Sherman's leg kick. And then he lands a hard overhand right in the pocket, but he eats a check hook as he's rushing in on Sherman, but then he presses with the combination and then a knee in the clinch, but then he backs up. Instead of following up, just kind of presses him and lets him off, which should have followed up, but you know, sloppy heavyweights. But then he eats a 1-2 when he's just standing at range. Chase Sherman kind of catches him. But then he presses and lands some short rights, and then he lands a wild overhand left, and then he eats some leg kicks coming in. But then in the third round, he lands a leg kick and then a straight right, and he presses forward and lands some overhands and multiple straight rights against the fence, and then he lands a double jab, but then he eats a counter hook. But Parker Porter just all over him in his face. If he can make it a dirty fight, you know, he can win. So, great performance for him, I thought. And then Albedo took on Rogerio Nascimento Ferreira. In the first round, he circles and lands a check left hook, and then he in and out with jabs and leg kicks. Nice to see. And then he presses and lands some hooks, but then he gets clinched to the fence. Then he hips in whenever Rogerio shoots his double, and then he's able to get on top. And then he lands some hard ground and pound there, tries to make the most of the position, which I liked. But then back on the feet, he gets clinched to the fence, but he's able to defend a single leg. Then he lands a jab and overhand and rocks him with a left hook and then a flurry to end the round. But then in the second round, tides change. He gets pressured to the fence and eats some straight shots, and then he eats an uppercut and then a flurry and just gets TKO'd from there. So I would guess Allen's a one-round fighter. Parker Porter has a gas tank for 3 rounds, if I had to sum it up. Alan Badeau plus 215, Parker Porter minus 265. I hate the line, but I love Parker Porter, and I really think he can do this. If he can make it out of the first round and not get knocked out, he's decently durable. I think he can do that. My pick here is Parker Porter, and then extra line if you want it, over 1.5, minus 150. I think that's almost guaranteed, decent money. My pick here is Parker Porter. Okay, co-main event of the night at 185. It's at a catch weight. I'm not sure exactly what weight, but they're 185-pounders. Kyle Dawkins taking on Jamie Pickett. Kyle Dawkins took on Kevin Holland his last fight. It ended in a no contest, but basically I shot a takedown attempt against the fence on Holland, had Holland pressed up, and then Holland versus clinches him, and you know, nothing really happens. I mean, Dawkins choked him out, but it was after a headbutt, so kind of throw that one out. But before I took on Phil Haas. In the first round, he defends the single with the front headlock, but he gets doubled from space, but he holds on the guillotine from half guard, which I think is a bad idea. But then he's able to do a cement mixer, punches his arm through, and reverses the position, which was really nice. And then they get back to the feet, and he clinches him up against the fence, and it kind of wears on him a little bit. But then in the second round, he misses the head kick, but then lands a back fist, and then some straight shots and rocks Phil, but then he misses the body lock trip, and then Phil's able to get around his back in the standing position, but then he's able to reverse the clinch and get the clinch against the fence on Phil. But then he lands a hook combination at range, but then he hits a body shot at range and some overhands in the clinch. But then he's able to get the clinch against the fence again. But then he gets pressed and eats some body shots, and then he eats some short hooks on the fence, and then he had that really good moment, but I think Phil might have stole it, but he didn't drop him. He just rocked him, so it's kind of tough to score. But then in the third round, not his round at all, he gets pressed with some straight shots and then gets doubled from open and then just eats some hard ground and pound at half guard for the whole round. Might have been 10-8. It didn't get completely battered up, but, he's bloodied a little bit, so. But, he had that moment, really nice moment there. He has some power. Then Jamie Pickett took on Joseph Holmes his last fight. In the first round, he throws teeps just trying to chop wear away and, you know, make it hard for him to breathe, which is nice. And then he's at range and he presses with the jab, but he's a little too short. But then he gets clinched to the fence, but then he shoots a double to the fence and then presses forward with some straight shots, but too short out of range again. But then he's able to get the double from space with like 30 seconds to go, which is nice. And then in the second round, he gets a quick ankle pick in the clinch, and then he presses with, but then he lands a right hand on the break, but then he eats a straight right as he's pressing forward, but then he lands a lunge jab, but then he gets clinched for a while on the fence, and that's his one downfall. And that's one thing Kyle Dawkins can do really well, is control the clinch, I believe. And then in the third round, he presses with some straight shots and then a clinch to the fence. But then he eats a body kick and he eats a jab as he's throwing the teep. But then he lands a couple side head kicks at the end of the round. This was a really bad fight. Not much happened. You know, Pickett just landed more shots, more straight shots, cleaner striking. It's not really saying much. And he stole the first round with that takedown, but he gets clinched a lot. Pickett plus 230, Kyle Dawkins minus 290. I hate the price, but I just don't see Jimmy Pickett winning. I don't like Jimmy Pickett's style. He doesn't do much at all. Kyle Dawkins is there to win. I don't see Pickett hurting him much. I see Dawkins getting the clinch, probably getting takedowns. The line really sucks, but my pick here is Kyle Dawkins. Just gotta hope he wins. Okay, main event at 205, men's light heavyweight. Johnny Walker taking on Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill. This is you know, not a terrible main event. Jamal Hill's looking to break into the rankings. Johnny Walker's like right at number 10 or something like that. So if Jamal Hill wins, especially if he gets a knockout, he's gonna jump right onto the scene, and it's a little easier to skip the line in 205. So he'll probably get a pretty big matchup his next fight, somebody really high ranked. And then Johnny Walker, he just really needs a win to stay relevant again because his last fight was awful. But let's get into it. Johnny Walker took on Thiago Santos his last fight, 5-round main event. Very terrible fight. Nobody really did anything. But in the first round, he's at range and he steps in, lands a leg kick and then a front kick. That's about it. In the second round, he lands some leg kicks, and then he stuffs a single, and then he lands a knee to the body, and then a hook in the clinch, but then he eats a body kick from Thiago. Then in the third round, he lands a check right as Santos throws the hook, but he eats left cross as he's bringing up his knee. But then his kick is caught, and he eats a left hook. Then fourth round, lands some leg kicks, but then he crowds the head kick of Santos and lands a right hook. And then, you know, not really much happened after that. I don't even care about the fifth round. It's just whatever, dude. He, you know, uses his kicks a lot, tries to keep the person away from him at range, and then might come in and land some hooks, but nobody engaged in a firefight, so he just seemed like he was hesitant. Santos has power, and Jamal Hill has power too, so. But Jamal Hill took on Jimmy Crute his last fight. In the first round, he misses the head kick, but then he sidesteps and lands a right hook and drops him, and then he steps back out of range of Jimmy's head kicks, and then he lands a step-in right hook as Crute throws a straight punch, and then he just gets the knockout, knocks him the fuck out. Jamal Hill has power. And then against Paul Craig, not much happened, but in the actual fight, but he backs out of range of the jabs, throws a 1-2, and then feints the leg kick, and then he catches the front kick and lands a body kick, but then he misses the left cross, and Craig is able to pull him into, get overhook and pull him down into his guard, and then just he gets his arm broken. But we don't got to worry about that with Johnny Walker, and Jamal's okay now. So yeah, not really much happened in that fight, and you know, Jamal gets knockouts. So that's the only thing I'll be worried about is going later on in the fight. But Jamal Hill minus 240, Johnny Walker plus 195. I just can't put money on Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker's chin is bad. He's got knocked out in the past relatively easily. Jamal Hill hits like a truck. The only thing I'll be concerned about is going all 5 rounds, but you know, I don't think it'll get past 3, to be honest. Not 100% sure, but you know, I just see with Jamal Hill's style, I just see him being able to touch Johnny, and then if it does go longer, it's because Johnny doesn't want to engage with him. But I just feel confident in Jamal Hill. I think he really learned from his mistakes against Paul Craig. And but like I said, we don't really have to worry about that on the ground with Johnny. And then a quick supplemental line, under 1.5, plus 110. But I think it'll go longer than 1.5. Over 1.5 is -140, so either one of those. I really can't pick, but I guess you can't really go wrong there. But anyway, my official pick here is Jamal Hill. I appreciate you guys watching me. I did decent last weekend, not because I wanted to. I really should pick Tai Tuivasa because I was thinking about it all day in my gut. Brunson, I don't regret because it was underdog. Tai Tuivasa was the underdog in a gunfight. If it's a gunfight, maybe pick the underdog. It is what it is. That's how sport goes. Anyway, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, all that. I'll do a post-fight recap. Leave a comment. Like the video, please. Share the video with people. If you want to win some money, hit me up. If you have questions about specific fighters, a specific line, hit me up. I'll try to answer it. I love talking about it. So, and you know, it's on ESPN Plus, so free. Not the best card, but I think this main event will be fun. I think there'll be some violence here. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes 5 rounds because Johnny Walker Santos won 5 rounds, but it is what it is. I like Jamal Hill. He's a rising star, so good opportunity for him. I appreciate it, guys. Let's win some damn money. Let's win a lot of money. Let's win more money than last weekend. Let's win money so you don't have to work. How about that? All right, guys. Thanks. And looking forward to the fights on Saturday and see some violence and let's see some cash.